for tuning in to 95.3 HD4. That's high definition digital, 95.3 HD4, channel 4 on the digital side. Love your neighbor and buy local is my slogan. That would be the agenda, and the credenda, which is to say the thing that you believe. The credenda would be perhaps summarized in the words of the Lord Jesus, to love your neighbor as yourself, and that is how the gospel works out. If you have the love of the Lord Jesus Christ in your heart, Christianity will teach you. Then the outworkings of that forgiveness, of that grace, is love for the neighbor as for the self. So what defense would you make of yourself if you were falsely accused? Well, it would probably be pretty extensive if you had the means. Even if you didn't have the means, you would defend and defy, and you would be busy making a defense, even facing jail. If you were wrongly accused, you're going to face jail to clear your name. What if your neighbor is falsely accused? What if your neighbor is a possible immigrant? Now, I'm looking here at the arrest reports, and there's a man about whom I don't have any personal details, named Rudy Soto Rodriguez from 7602 Lee Crest Lane in Hickson. Driving without a driver's license is the charge, and speeding. Well, what does driving without a driver's license mean? Was he charged under the failure to exhibit statute? Well, that statute can't be used in his case. And it can't be used because it applies only to licensees. If he's a man on the road without a license, he's not a licensee, right? He's a traveler. Now, the problem for Mr. Rodriguez is that he has to make the defense that he was not involved in transportation, not subject to the license statutes in Title 55, because he is outside the scope, outside the purview of that law. And that's a defense he needs to make. Now, if you knew that and were able to help this man clear his name, he was arrested and jailed. Okay, he was jailed. A common man who had done nothing wrong, had hurt nobody. He had hurt nobody, committed no crime. A non-crime criminal charge against a man who's simply using his car, and he was simply going faster than the posted speed limit, which applies to everybody involved in transportation, but not other people, right? That's you have to understand that in the common law jurisdiction, transportation rules and regulations don't apply to you. Well, let me ask you this. How come your car doesn't have a DOT number on it, like business trucks do, like hauling trucks do? Well, you're not involved in transportation. That's why you don't have to have a DOT number on your painted on your car or anything else, because you're not involved in on the federal side under Title 49, which is called transportation. On the state side, the same law applying to the state would be Title 55. And Title 65. You're not involved in that either. So you don't have to have a DOT number, and you're not subject to this statute, but you are, because of the oppressive enforcement mechanism brought to you by Neil Pinkston, who promises to continue prosecuting people, as he says, obeying the law. And as far as we know, Sheriff Jim Hammond will continue to do so as well. And every corporation, every municipal corporation, police department will do the same until we find a local economy remedy to what is a social, it is an injustice, okay? It's simply an injustice, and it drags under the wheel of the administrative state, under the grinding stone of the judicial and police industrial complex. The poor and the immigrant, the ignorant, the minority, the people who do not know how to defend themselves and who should be protected by the state. They should be under the state's protection, not under the state's abuse. And yet we're so familiar with these mugshots and so condemning of people who are in the lineup that clearly they must be bad people, right? Driving without a license, we know you can't do that, and so on. And yet there are injustices practiced daily by the good people, by the great ones who lord it over us in Hamilton County and in Chattanooga, all in the name of justice, all in the name of the law, all at the behest of the peace and tranquility of our state, which is the kind of verbiage that appends every indictment, peace and tranquility requiring it. This is David Tulis, and we argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local. And I'm dealing with a topic that's almost too big for a talk show, and that is the general concept of what is social justice and what are the remedies for this injustice. What are the remedies, as we have been thinking about for immigrants who come here and are undocumented? They're illegal aliens. Well, first of all, in a constitutional republic, no one has to have any documentation whatsoever. Documentation becomes a necessity only in the rise of the administrative welfare warfare state, the military state that we have, replicated 50 times from the head in Washington, from the fountain of the nation state in Washington. We have the mini nation states copying it in detail, even renaming the State Department of Safety into the Department of Safety and Homeland Security. And so here we have a procedural grinding of the administrative state that Steve Bannon was unable to deconstruct in his few months in the White House. What is social injustice? What is social justice? And should we pursue it? Is it something that belongs to the left? The idea of social justice here at 800-8949, 800. That is to say, the phone number. Yes, that's a phone number. You can write it down. In fact, I have Mike Steele is a man who has my phone number in his phone. Believe it or not, he wrote it down in his phone. And so, we hear from Mike every now and then. 800-894-9. You can't interrupt me, okay? Or should I say, you can. You can't interrupt me. And maybe it's good if you do. Maybe throw me a curveball and make me think harder. Make me earn my pay here on the show, the David Tulis Show. Make me earn my keep. Maybe if you call me and we have a long digression or two, I'll have to demand from the management an extra hour on my show, right? Because my show is very limited. It's just very short. I have to pack way too much into a paltry 2-hour segment, 9 o'clock to 11. I'm just going to have to ask the management to give me another hour. And so if you call me, that will further justify said claim to management for another hour on the David Tulis Show to 12. Maybe run it till 12 o'clock and give our national host a break. Because we think tribally, I'm afraid we hear the word social justice and we think automatically that it belongs to the left, just like we think that the poofter rainbow flag belongs to the left. When really the rainbow flag devised for the gay community by Gilbert Baker in 1978 to represent the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community really is borrowed from God. It's God's sign that he is a God of judgment and of mercy. And that was given to Noah as he emerged from the ark, as the ground slowly dried in the warming sun and the waters receded from the great cataclysm. The burrowing of the whole earth under the tonnage of a sea that covered the earth, the deep breaking up, and the rain pouring down in a drum beat for 40 days and 40 nights. That is a picture of God's judgment. So the gay flag fluttering over gay pride parades is a reminder, and should be a reminder, that God judges and God forgives. Right? God forgives. God promises never to bring a judgment that vast, though He might occasionally pull up His sleeves and hammer Sodom and Gomorrah with a tonnage of stone so great and so hot that nothing is left but slag heaps for miles in that part of the Mideast. Certain things belong to the left, perhaps temporarily, and they can pretend all they want. But I really think that the lug butt flag, the gay flag, really belongs in my studio. It really deserves to be behind me on the far wall, not the Yankee federal flag, but the gay flag. Only is I don't want to spend $78 to buy a copy of it and support the gay cause, right? Because if I'm going to buy one, I have to go to the homosexuals to get it. But the flag is really something that belongs to the Christian, and I dare say to the conservative. It doesn't belong to the person who follows the mores of Gomorrah. What about social justice? I'd say the same thing here at 800-8949, 800-8949. we think tribally and we think, well, social justice, that can't be good. We really probably should be against it, right? Anybody who speaks about social justice can't be heard. We should not hear that person at all. And maybe sometimes that's true because the person who often says things about social justice simply wants to gather a committee on Wednesday evening after the service to write letters to Congress requesting more funding for food stamps. That's kind of how the left feels about social justice. We need to have more of a program, a little bit more funding, maybe a new effort to now help the unschooled children of opioid victims. We can have another program for them, just a special program for that category of person. And the government will engorge itself with a little bit more debt and open a new office downtown somewhere in a nice rented building to take care of that social problem that has arisen because of the drug industry and its great genius in devising addictive narcotics. The Bible, as Christians will tell you, offers the government as a minority solution at best. The progressive left offers government, and so does the progressive right. The conservative right offers usually, it seems, government as the majority response to a problem. And yet I'm thinking, what about these immigrants that we have here, such as people named such as Rudy Soto Rodriguez? Now, I don't know that he's an immigrant, but he could be. He was charged with driving without a license. Sounds like he might be a free traveler, right? A free-range motorist, as I like to call such people, who are really just exercising a liberty. He probably doesn't know he had that, doesn't know he's actually exercising a freedom in Tennessee law that has been properly annotated in my transportation administrative notice. I hope you Google that. Google transportation administrative notice to get caught up on that story. What are the solutions for the problem, if you will, of immigration? Is it a problem or is it a blessing? Well, immigration is really a great blessing. It's a great blessing because a true and great culture will never be overturned by it. It will never be so changed and so altered by it that it later becomes unrecognizable. A truly great and moral and godly culture does not change for the worse with immigrants. In fact, the immigrants make it better because they came to that country because they wanted to participate in the justice of that place, in the righteousness of that place, in the free markets of that place. Who could dislike them for that? Who could hate them for that? Who could think of raising a phalanx of National Guard troops with M4 machine guns and Stryker tanks against people wearing shirts and regular shoes, civilians, maybe with a bag or two, and in hopes and dreams of coming into this country north of their wicked border? Right, they wanted to cross the border of Mexico, leave Mexico, and leave behind possibly countries such as Honduras and Guatemala and Colombia and point south, and coming north, leaving the hell of Mexico and coming to a free land where you would say all those things are true. It is a free land. And here now you're upset that they don't have papers. Somehow you want everybody to have papers. Why is that? Why do you, as a conservative, here at 800-8949, at 800-8949, want that person to be documented? Why do you want that person to have permission? Why suddenly you, a person who say you love freedom, you say you love liberty, you say you love the Constitution, why do you want that person to have papers? Suddenly now you've created a demand for people who are here with bigger yearnings for the future in this country than you have, right? They come here with more hopes and the desires than you ever had. You want good things for your children. You want good things for your business. You want to have more prosperity. You want maybe to open a franchise in Cleveland. You're thinking of having a franchise of your business in Dalton. And you have dreams for tomorrow, dreams for 2025, where you hope maybe by that time you'll have a really good income and you can actually take a vacation. You're dreaming for the future. The people who come here to Chattanooga, here to the Dayton area, to South Pittsburgh, they have bigger hopes than you. If you could measure in the vibration in the heart their hopes versus you and yours, theirs would probably register more squiggle lines on the Richter scale than yours. People with names such as Rudy Soto Rodriguez of 7602 Lee Crest Lane in Hickson, arrested for driving without a driver's license. Well, the solutions that we have to think about, I would say, are local economy solutions. And that's what my show is all about. David Tulis, that's my name, David Tulis. And you can contact me anytime. I argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local. And the argument for local economy is that we need to have not government majority solutions, but private solutions, meaning the government solutions, if any, are minority. And if it's positive or negative solution, let's make it a negative solution, which means not that the government does something, but that the government, the federal, state particularly, stops doing something, right? What we want is an end of its activity, not an addition to its activity. We want it to stop acting, stop benefiting us, stop caring for us, stop looking out for us, stop surveying us. And we want it to leave us alone. And so that opens the way over time for Christian people, right? It opens the way for conservative people, for capitalists, for entrepreneurs, and for thinkers, for benefactors, for givers of charity to act. What we want here on the David Tulis Show, and really I'd say my whole radio station, even though we have some right-wing nationalists on our star list, Sean Hannity, for example, what we really want as the people who run Nougat Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 FM HD4 live on Facebook, what we want, I'd say, are decentralized solutions. So that would be helping people to come here, right? Is there some program that a group of churches in Chattanooga could not create? A group of charities could not ordain in the way of networking, sharing, giving, sacrificing, volunteering, donating, and if there are disputes, private arbitration, and perhaps a big thing in the way of grace, social grace, of exchanging capital in local economy, I would say, is doing business. Do business with people who are in the minority. Do business with the small people. And that's what I really like about my argument for local economy. And, you can talk with me about that anytime. 800-8949. 800-8949 is my phone number. And do let me solve your problem. And if you want to talk with me about a problem, we'll give a whole segment to your problem. If you have a problem that's compelling enough and interesting enough and perhaps general enough, we would discuss it in detail. Maybe we can solve it. Maybe there's another person, another listener. I may have two listeners. There may be you. Well, there is you, right? There's always you, my listener, but there may be somebody else. And that other person may have just what you need to know. And doing business with somebody, doing business with a minority company, doing business with a poor person is how that person gets ahead. And sometimes a shabby store, a shabby car lot may be the place where you find your best bargain. Maybe the place where you find the man with the heart of gold, the car salesman with the heart of gold. Sometimes you find them, and so you want to do business with that person. So doing business with someone is a way of shoring up local economy and caring about people. And I think if you have a lococentric perspective, a local economy perspective, you're more likely to want to do that. And I'm not arguing here against the rationality of the marketplace, right? I understand the libertarian theory, the free market theory, which really makes fun of my lococentrism. And it ribs it, right? It ribs localism and it ribs local economy. And I join in ribbing it as well. Because sometimes, there are efficiencies in the national economy and even in the international economy that are entirely rational to pursue. Those advantages you should pursue and not go with your local provider who doesn't have as many offerings, doesn't have as great a price perhaps, and the like. But what are decentralized solutions? What is, as the Roman Catholic Church calls it, in the doctrine of subsidiarity, what is the local solution to a local problem? Many local problems are really national problems that can't be solved nationally. There is no national solution to them. And so we have to think we have a bad and maybe even a wicked system of misgovernance out of Washington. And in fact, I'm holding up here in my hand the formerly newsprint ink stained fingertips of David Tulis, a book called The New Localism. and you can see it on YouTube at Nuke Radio, The New Localism: How Cities Can Thrive in the Age of Populism by Bruce Katz and Jeremy Nowak. I've read, I'd say well, I've probably got another 80 pages to go still, and I'm not satisfied with the book, but it has many good points. But the idea that there is a local solution to things that can't be fixed nationally, that cannot be repaired by Congress, that can't possibly be even analyzed before the coming collapse in equities. We do face a major disaster in an overbuilt and overcredited and effectively bankrupt national economy. We have a coming return with big spurts of activity when the markets fail. Return of authority and discretion back to local economy. The continuing and growing enfeeblement of national government, and I hope similar in Nashville, that Nashville and state government will be truly shown as wanting. Weighed in the balance and found wanting. Of course, the balance, I would say, is one that should be informed by equity, by principles of equity, and not just personal opinion. Right? Let's dispense with personal opinion and find some external standard for what is right and what is wrong. What we want to have are not centralized solutions as with the leftists. Right? So what we want to have is social justice. And so the three points that I think are ones to reconsider claiming back. We here at Nougat Radio, and you, my listener, we should claim back the idea of the rainbow colors. Also, social justice. What is social justice, and is it something we need to fight for? I'd say yes. And if you've been reading Nouganomics or yournews.com, our sponsors, that's yournews.com, you'll have a sense of what I'm talking about here on social justice. That is to say, justice which affects the body politic as a whole, right? Justice for the group. And what we want to have is, as with Hanson Melvin, the story we covered last year, abused by the cops, a cop conspiracy, still protected by the chief, still protected by internal affairs. Not the Internal Affairs Department has not gone after a conspiracy to offend and abuse a common man, Hanson Melvin, and a little bit less so a common woman, Rochelle Gelpin, who's now living in Birmingham, and did not assert her rights as Melvin did. Melvin sued, by the way, and is awaiting his day in court for damages and redress of grievance. What we want to have is restraining of the good people in their pretended offices of ministry. And there's another thing that is something that the left claims that really belongs to us. It belongs to the free marketers, to the pro-capitalist side, to the Christian, okay? And that is the idea of sanctuary city. The sanctuary city concept does not belong to the left. It really belongs to people like me and to people like you. And wait a minute. Okay, I've got some important messages that I want you to hear. I want you to hear all of my important messages and support Nougat Radio. And you support Nougat Radio by going to all of our sponsors, all of our advertisers, and say, I'm doing business with you because I heard about you on that terrific, wonderful radio station, the CBS station, Nougat Radio.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nougat Radio. 90.